Welcome to the NBA Hangout presented by Playbook Sports. I'm your host, Brandon. With me, as always, is Dave. Dave, how are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. We're in the midst of the first round, a couple games in, 2 games for some teams, 1 game for others. Some exciting games, some blowouts, but we'll get to it all. And we can also talk about the Kings and where they're headed next since their season has ended. What stood out to you in this last week before we dive into some games?
Well, we got the Jonte decision this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, did we ever?
Yeah. That was something. Make smart decisions, kids. That's all I'll say.
The Porter family in general. Jonte got banned from the NBA for gambling, placing some bets, having associates place bets for him, and I believe Michael Porter Jr.'s other brother is in trouble for murder while he was intoxicated driving. So he is that family just going through it. Michael Porter Jr. is just going through it right now. But yeah, lots of crazy stuff going on. What else caught your eye?
The end of the play-in tournament. I didn't expect Sacramento to go out, and I kind of expected Miami to falter without Jimmy, if I'm honest. So yeah. I'm pleasantly surprised they made it through.
Yeah. I wasn't sure how that second game would go after that first game. Like, I was pretty much out of it, but I guess they're just a much better. Like, the drop off from the East, from like those top 8 teams to the 9-10 teams, which is so significant that it's hard to see it in real time. It's easier to see it in real time, but from a faraway view, you kind of think like it's anybody's game. But it goes back to what we were talking about last week with whether or not like there should be a games. You have to get within a certain amount of games to activate the plan, because it seemed like nothing really changed in the East from that perspective. I don't think even anything changed in the West really either. I think basically how they started off, they finished off as well. I mean, that first play-in game with the Heat and the Sixers, Jimmy getting hurt in the first quarter and spraining his MCL. Still able to finish the game and keep it a 1-point game, but I think whoever won that game was really looking forward to playing the Knicks, because Boston is just a different machine. And I guess we'll get into that now with the Sixers and the Knicks. The Sixers almost stole game 2 on the road. They were up 5 points with 47 seconds left, and then chaos just ensued with Brunson hitting a 3-point shot. Maxey got an inbound. He turned over the ball. Josh Hart stole it. DiVincenzo ends up hitting a 3. All of a sudden, New York's up by 1, which looked like a dire game just heading into that sequence there. And they're able to pull off a 104-101 win to keep the series 2-0 and force Philly to have to earn it on their home court next game. So how's the series looked out to you?
I mean, I always kind of thought the Knicks were going to win. I don't think Joel's back to 100%. And I think when it comes to the playoffs, you're driven by your best player. And if Joel is going to be less than, and Brunson is being everything he's been all year, the Knicks should take this. They should take this. I kind of expected, the Sixers to take games here and there. I expected them to take this game when they were up early, but they couldn't hold on. They couldn't close it out. And it shows that, like, for as good as the Sixers are, they're still a really not complete team. It is very much how Joel goes, how that team goes. Because, yeah, Tyrese Maxey took a good step. He might be the most improved player this year, but it's really just the two of them, right? You've got Tobias Harris, you've got Kelly Oubre, you've got Kyle Lowry, but they're not really making a difference for that team right now.
No, right now it's just been the Embiid and Maxey show, really. Like tonight, Maxey had 35, 10 and 9, and Embiid had 34, 10 and 6. And really, yeah, it really goes how they go. the guy that you want to see step up a little bit more is a guy who's been there for a while, the guy that they paid a lot of money to, in Tobias Harris, who he just finishes 4 of 11 for 10 points. And that's just not what you need from that player, or what you've paid him, what you've paid to get from that level of production. Like, you expect a little bit more from a guy like that. There was a point in time where he was looking like a potential all-star player, and he's far from that guy at that point, especially when it comes playoff time. Batum in the playing game went crazy, but ever since then, the series has started, he hasn't come to that type of form, and that's made it really tough. They do say role players shoot better at home, so you kind of have to hope that is the case, that like they're on the road right now, so you're expected to lose these games. The series doesn't really start, they say, until a team wins on the road. So we'll see if New York's able to do that. I myself, I thought this will go to distance, the series, so we're still kind of in play for that. Mostly because, I kind of expect by the end of this series that Embiid is going to be a shell of himself. Like, I'm surprised he's even made it through these two games. Lots of scares throughout them. The first game, he goes for a putback dunk on his own shot, and he falls down. He has to go back to the locker room, comes back in, finishes the game. But it seems like it's a real struggle for him to get out there. And at times it almost feels like, is it even worth it for him to be pushing through this knee injury?
Since he got the knee injury, I didn't think it was worth it. I think he should have shut it down. I've never been completely convinced that Philadelphia is a well-built team. I like Tobias Harris as like a guy and a player. I just think he takes up too much of your salary cap. And when you've got too many players taking up too much of the salary cap, you can't have the balance that you need, or especially players that take up a lot of the salary cap that don't provide you with one of those premier outlets, if you will.
Yeah.
And like, get your bag, do what you got to do. Like, I don't begrudge Tobias Harris at all. I wish I was Tobias Harris. I would buy a boat and never sail it, because the sea is terrifying. But yeah, I still think this is New York series to win. I like New York. I don't know how far they'll go, because they're missing Julius Randle, who's supposed to be their number 2. And a number 2 is going to mean a lot in like a postseason.
Yeah. They've had good contributions from, like, we talk about Philly not having those guys step up. On New York side of things, I think those guys have stepped up. Josh Hart tonight, 21 points, 15 rebounds, a crucial steal in clutch time, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and just filling up the box score all around, and just providing winning plays for his team. And you won't believe it, but he played every single minute of this game, every single second, 48 minutes clean. He never came out. A Tibbs specialty.
Can we just shout out Josh Hart for a second? Like, that guy, he gets better. He's gotten better every year. But as a player, he's pretty awesome. But like, as a guy, he just seems like a dude you want to hang out with. Like, he's just like a dude you want to be around. You're like, this guy's he's got a good sense about him. He seems really fun. He seems like you think you'd be the funniest guy in the room, and then Josh Hart shows up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're like, oh, this guy has all the charisma.
He's got it.
Yeah,
he's gonna be hosting on TNT later on in his career, and we're all gonna be better off for it.
Yeah, we'll all be better for it. And you speak to his improvement, like the thing with Josh Hart was his 3-point shooting. You usually kind of give him some room, force him to shoot. He's not like a consistent shooter, but today 4-7 from 3, he did enough to make them pay. Other guys, some other role players, Dante DiVincenzo, he's the one who had the dagger. He finishes with 19 points, and he's been on a roll ever since coming over to the Knicks. And I think this unit, as opposed to Philly's team, just fits. Everyone kind of has their role, even without Julius Randle. They still seem to figure out like what each person can do and how they can do it effectively to better the team. So I might be a little more bullish on the Knicks right now, just in this environment. I think it's going to be a tough series for them, because I think the talent of Philly in general is just higher than what they have in New York. I think any series after this will just be, a little tough for them. But as it looks right now, it's been good. And you still haven't gotten really a good Brunson. Brunson shot 27% from the field, took 29 shots, left 24 points. So he's still trying to figure out his rhythm in this playoff series.
Yeah, he'll get there. Like this seems to be Brunson's magic. Is like you've got an undersized guard. I believe he was drafted in the second round. He got wrote off in Dallas. They let him go, and his star power is that he finds a way. He figures it out and he finds a way, and that's really admirable. I think he'll find his way. I'm not worried about Brunson at all, unless he gets hurt.
Yeah, then this is it for them. Then that'll be it for the Knicks. I would fear. Moving on to the West, we had an exciting. It wasn't really as close of a game, but there was exciting moments in the Phoenix and Minnesota game. So we had Minnesota coming on top. They won 120-95. But I think the story of the game was Anthony Edwards and his performance. We talked about before the series started about like this can be a stage for Anthony Edwards, can kind of set the tone and show that he is of that star level of a KD, of a Booker, of a Beal, and he's definitely shown that and more, at least in this first game, hitting clutch shots after clutch shots and talking to KD right after, getting the crowd into it. It was just a strong performance from Anthony Edwards to start off his playoff run this year.
Well, here's a kid who says that in 2 years he'll be the best player in the world. So like, yeah, you gotta love Anthony Edwards, even if it's just for his moxie. Yeah, I adore him. I'm excited to see what he can do in the next game. It's a shame that like they're not playing like today, right?
I know.
They get a two-day break, which is nice, I guess. It's rest the bones, but I look. I think Minnesota is a better team than Phoenix, but Phoenix just has, they have Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant's done it, and Kevin Durant's one of the best players to ever play the game. He's certainly one of the best offensive players to ever play the game. And when you've got that guy on your team, like anything's possible. Like Phoenix to me is the most anything's possible team in these playoffs. But you got to beat Minnesota, and Minnesota's a really good defensive team, and they've got a lot of guys they can go to. And, Anthony Edwards, this is the biggest stage. If he excels here, the arguments for him just go higher and higher. It won't be much longer before we're talking about Anthony Edwards for MVP.
Yeah, and he has the charisma, as we talk about with Josh Hart. He has that same type of charisma that just propels you forward of these conversations. It's just a guy you want to root for just because of how he is on the court. It's just fun to watch. And they seem to be getting what they need out of Karl Anthony Towns. Gobert has been great, and the way that the coach Chris Finch has been utilizing different lineups just to match and mix with what Suns have so far has been good. We'll see how that fills out for the rest of the series. As you say, like they do have Kevin Durant. He had 31 in this first game, but the guy that I'm looking at, I think, is Devin Booker. If the Suns want to get past this first round, get past this strong Minnesota team, I think it's going to have to come from Booker and his ascension, because he was one of their leading guys this year. I think I had him on my second or third team. He's interchangeable between the two, I would say, for his year, but he needs to be that guy for them to have a chance to get past this stout Minnesota defense.
And it's true. And look, Devin's a guy that I don't know if he's got that same charisma, but like he's certainly got the stats. And when this is unfair, this is a human thing. It's just when you have like the charisma and people like you, they tend to elevate your argument. And Devin's got the stats, but right now the question really is, can he win? Is he a winner? And if they lose to Minnesota, that question is just going to get louder and louder, because they're not going to really levy it against Durant. Durant's proved himself. Bradley Beal, he was on Washington for years. Nobody actually expects a ton from Bradley Beal, even though he's an amazing player. But it's all about Devin Booker is the X factor for the Phoenix Suns. And if they win and he contributes a lot to that winning, it's gonna really accelerate his career, really accelerate his star power, and maybe he's invited on more shows, and we get to see that Devin Booker does have charisma. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm wearing a Books hat, right? It's my Booker hat. Not really, but it's we'll say it is. So yeah, I want to see the best for everybody, right? Everybody in the world. I want to see the best things happen to them. So I want to see Devin Booker make this jump. If I had to put money on it, like my money's still on Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I'm at the point with Devin Booker, unfortunately, that like he's gonna have to just do it and prove it before
Mhm.
I can believe in it, right? And I'm just a
And
guy,
I
but
think
like
yeah.
it's just how I feel.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. The stuff that they get from the bigs as well isn't much. I think that's a lot. That's a big problem for having to guard a guy
Mhm.
like Gobert, because it actually enables him to be somewhat of an offensive threat when you have not much, when you just have Nurkic down there, and not much backup to help him. Like Eubanks can get in there and bang a bit, but it's not really ideal. I think the other thing I'm looking at with this series is the pace of the game. So this game was a lot slower. Like they played at a 95.7 pace. Phoenix is usually a little bit faster. They're closer to like a 98, which is like 15th in the league in pace. And Minnesota likes the slower pace games. They're 24th in the league in pace. So this game, they're able to drag them down. They're able to slow them down, play them on Minnesota's terms. And I think that's the way that they're going to have to win. That's the way that they will win this series, because we spoke earlier. We spoke, I think, about last week about how the offense can be kind of touch and go with Minnesota, especially depending what you're getting from Cat. If Cat's going, then obviously your offense is going to look a lot better. But yeah, if that's not going, then they're gonna rely on the defense as they have the entire year. That's been their bread and butter, their identity. Anything else before we move on to another series?
Minnesota in 5.
Whew, in 5. Wow. Well, no team
I
has won on
think
the
you're
road
right.
yet. Yeah.
I just think you're right. I think Minnesota is just going to get Phoenix to play their game, play their style,
Yeah.
and if you can consistently do that, you've bamboozled the other team, and it crosses sports, all across sports. I first heard that like adage while watching hockey, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, you know, they've really got them playing their game now, and I was like, what are they really on about? And then I learn more.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just one of those adages that goes across all sport. If you get them playing the way you want them to play, you've almost beat them already. And
Yeah.
it looks like Minnesota can pull that off when it comes to the Phoenix. So Phoenix, you got an uphill battle, and game 2 had better go your way. And maybe we're having a completely different podcast in a week, but yeah, it really looks like Minnesota at this point.
It looks like an uphill battle. I guess staying on the theme of teams playing other teams' games, Minnesota and the Pacers, or not Minnesota, Milwaukee and the Pacers. Milwaukee kind of got Indiana playing slow again. Like it was 96 pace, and we know Indiana's one of the faster teams in the league. They want to go fast. They want to push. Siakam had a good one though. He's okay with a slower pace. He's used to this. He's played lots of playoff basketball, and he's used to having to be a scorer in these situations. So he had 36, 13. A steal and 2 blocks. So he did his part there. What was a little troubling was that it looked like Halliburton really couldn't get into his groove in this game at all. Like it seemed like he was trying to find his rhythm. This has been the case kind of like since he's been injured. Like the second half of the year, Halliburton hasn't been the Halliburton that we saw in the first half of the year. So it's just a little trend, I guess, to watch to see if Halliburton can kind of get back to himself, get back to finding guys, getting back to picking up the pace for the Pacers, because I think that's what they really need to get to that faster pace to really push Milwaukee into places that they don't want, especially since they don't have Giannis out there to contribute to their offensive talent on Milwaukee side. You're really looking at Dame, who looked like he really did miss the playoffs and wanted to show that he missed the playoffs in that first game. What are your thoughts on this series so far in the first game?
I was really disappointed with the Pacers. Like I have very high hopes for the Pacers this offseason, but you probably hit it on the head. Like maybe I was a little bit delusional when like if you saw our brackets, like I have the Pacers going all the way to the finals, just being the Cinderella story of this playoffs. But a lot of it was just like Halliburton being, mid-season tournament Halliburton, right?
Right.
Which he hasn't been since his injury. And I don't know why. I was just like, oh, he'll just be back to it. It's the playoffs. It's just gonna happen. He might need a whole off season.
Yeah, to work it out.
I don't think he's healthy. I don't think he's been healthy since he's come back. I think he came back to try and get the awards threshold in.
Yep.
But like it might have been the worst mistake that happened this year for the Pacers. And I love Siakam, but when he's going off for 30 plus and is your entire offense, look, I've watched a lot of those performances. Rarely did the Raptors like win those games. Like, right. It just generally means that he's taken on too much and nobody else is cooking, because Siakam will pass the ball. He will play make. If he thinks somebody else has a better shot, he'll often make the best decision. Sometimes he gets shot happy. Sure. Who doesn't? Right. Yeah. But, like he's been around the game long enough. Like he's won a championship. He knows how to do it. Mm-hmm. But if he's your guy just putting up massive stats, it's not generally a good thing for the rest of your team. You want Siakam to be putting up like 25, 9, and like 6 assists.
Yeah.
And then if he's got that stat line, you've had a good game. Yeah. But if he's got 37, double-digit rebounds and stuff, he's just doing it all. And I was pretty hopeful because Giannis is out for a game or two. I was thinking, like this was part of my thinking, was that if Giannis is out and if the Knicks get through and Julius Randle's out, the Pacers have Siakam, who will dominate his position because his competition won't be nearly as strong as it could be. And that will be one of the reasons they Cinderella their way to the finals. But based on game one, we're gonna need a pretty big change in narrative.
Yeah, it was rough that first game. Luckily, it's one game and losses all count the same. You can lose by a lot, you can lose by a little. It's still gonna be one loss, so that's a good thing.
It's still, like I still have more faith in the Pacers than like Phoenix. Like we were just talking about Phoenix, and having the same kind of impression, but I still have a little bit more faith in the Pacers. However, if it's another stinker in game 2, like I'm gonna have to jump off that bandwagon. It's going downhill fast.
Yeah, it is a rough one, and on the Milwaukee, on the Indiana front, I think some of this stuff is fixable. Like when I was watching at least the first half there before the league got a little too crazy, was the defensive lapses, just small ones, like little ones. Backdoor cuts are happening. Chris Middleton still feels a little too comfortable for this series. Like he doesn't feel like he's being pushed too much. Shots are coming pretty easy for him. Of course, Dame went crazy in that like first half. He had like 35 in the first half, something like that. So that's all gonna look like that. But I think stuff that they can clean up on is some of those rotations, those backdoor cuts, just being more aware and being more intentional with their possessions. If it's going to be a slow game, then make sure you're getting it to the guys that you want to have the ball to create for you, because it seemed like some of the times like Milwaukee will slow down the game, get a basket, set up their defense, and Pacers would just run down the court and like Nembhard would shoot a 3 out of nowhere, just quickly into tempo. And like in the regular season, that stuff can work, but when it comes to playoff times, you need to be a little more deliberate with what you're trying to do each possession, because each possession just means just that much, little bit more than it does in the regular season.
Yeah, and I want Nembhard defending, not shooting. If we're honest, like Nembhard should have locked up Chris Middleton that entire game, and he can do it. But like he shouldn't be getting into a shooting contest with anyone.
Yeah. Like that's we don't they that's not what they really are looking for. Yeah, I think it's just gonna be a tough one for them. I think the Bucks can. I mean, the defense that they've been playing since Doc has been coach has shown out, and I think that's something that they can continue to do to kind of bog this one down. I'm still pretty confident in the Bucks pulling this one out. They show me no reason not to be so far. So I think I'm sticking with that one. I guess the next game that we can go over to, there was another close game. So we had some close games, some blowouts. So those were a couple blowouts. So a close game that occurred was OKC versus the Pelicans, which also had a pretty crazy finish to that game with Shea hitting some clutch shots as he was struggling throughout most of the game. It was a low scoring game in general. Thunder pulled out 94-92. But Shea's able to get 5 points quickly in the last minute to kind of pull ahead and solidify their first win of this series. How'd that look for you, the game one of the Pelicans and Thunder?
Pelicans were a little better than I expected. Once again, their team missing their best player. So, but we gotta give a little bit more credit, I think, to the rest of the Pelicans. That's a good team over there. They're only a few minor adjustments away from being like a really elite team. Like they're a team that can probably make enough adjustments this offseason personnel wise that they can get to that next step without having to like do a major swing, like without having to get a Paul George or like add a major superstar. So like props to the Pelicans for being that close. Also, props to the young OKC Thunder, right? Like this is a young team. They haven't been here. Chet just came off playing 82 games. He's probably a bit tired, right? And yeah, this is what you expect from Shea, because this is a guy top 3 MVP voting. He's one of the finalists. You expect this. You expect these last moments to come down to him, right? Like they used to talk about Andrew Wiggins being Maple Jordan. Shea is the closest thing to Maple Jordan. He is the closest thing to just that insane winning machine that Michael was, right? As far as like a Canadian goes. And honestly, you love to see it. And even if he had missed every shot up until that point in the game, I still feed him the ball. He's earned it, right?
No, I think you have to live and die with him.
Yeah, I just think this series is going to go a little bit longer than I probably expected it to. Like I could see this one going a full 7 games somehow, but like I could see it happening.
There's always one sneaky series.
Yeah, mostly just because of the resilience of New Orleans. I think New Orleans is a good team. I think this was a tough matchup to get round 1.
Yeah, like they were 5th seed for majority of the season, and it was just like the last couple of games that they sputtered out and missed their playoff spot. So yeah, they're well deserving team of OKC. Like OKC had to give them their full attention. And what was nice to see on the OKC side was just the defense that some of those guys were playing. Like Cason Wallace, rookie coming in, and he was just guarding. Like he's not going to do too much on offense right now. He's still figuring that side of the court out. Like he's more of a spot up guy at this moment, and you kind of hope that it goes in whenever he shoots. But his defensive intensity was really good. Same goes with Dort. Dort has now put in some important games. He didn't shoot the ball too well, but what he was able to provide on the defensive end, excuse me, was really good and really crucial, especially on that last possession there where CJ was trying to win the game at the end there. Him and Cason Wallace just switching off and just giving a hard time to CJ to get a shot off to the point where he didn't want to even give up the ball. I think it's just some impressive stuff to win the game on the defensive side is a good thing for a young OKC team, because we know that they could light it up. We know Shea's going to have a game where he gets like 30 plus. Jalen Williams has like 25 plus, and Chet's just doing Chet things. So To win it ugly is always a great thing. I know I'm a Heat guy, so I'm used to lots of ugly wins. But if you're able to win it ugly, winning when it's not so ugly comes so much easier. And I think it's a good experience for a team like this to get. And I think this is a good first round test for them to get too, because like you say, I think they were better than they've showed all season. They're being a good, solid team, a respectable team. They have some guys who've been around the block here a little bit with Valanciunas and CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram. They have some youth there with Trey Murphy and Herbert Jones. So a nice balance that they got going over there.
Well, like Nick Nurse would say, this is a make or miss league, right? And the fact that OKC knows enough at such a young age that, like, if your shot isn't falling, you can still affect the game through good decision making and playing really hard, locked in defense, right? And sometimes if your shot's not falling, you just play defense a little bit harder and you're still going to be a net positive. So honestly, that's probably a scary thing for the rest of the league. That a team this young and this good already knows that big lesson. Like, if it's not falling, you can still affect the game in a positive way. You just have to care about it.
Yeah, I think that's right. Like, we kind of forget that they're similar to Minnesota. Like, their bread and butter was on defense. Like, they finished with a top 4 defense in the season. So
yeah, and you just don't think like that, right?
Yeah, you
just
don't think of them
see
as
them as
all.
that team. Yeah.
Yeah, because of just like what Shea and Jalen Williams do. So like eye-popping, it grabs your attention what they're doing on offense, but you forget Shea's a leader in the league in steals. He's one of the guys up there in deflections. Like he's a menace in passing lanes when he's locked into that side of the ball. The same thing goes for Jalen Williams. Same thing goes for a lot of those guys. Case in point, like I mentioned before, Dort is a defender first type guy, and then it always comes together, produces a top 4 defense. So yeah, it's really good for a young team, scary for the league. You don't want a young team that is good on defense and is okay winning ugly like this to start off their playoff season like this. But that's how it goes for them. Yeah, I think we can move on to the next game here. What other fascinating ones can we talk about? I guess Dallas Clippers. A lot of people had Dallas handling winning this series, and I had the Clippers winning, not knowing that Kawhi wasn't healthy. I don't know, silly me. I should have just assumed that.
See, and I had Dallas winning this like handily.
Yeah.
So it's that one was tough. That one was embarrassing as far as a prediction went. Because I'm a big Luka guy, like, as you know, like I'm a big Luka guy, and I thought this is gonna be like the year that Luka really stands out and he shows himself to be, Jokic's heir apparent for just best player in the league. Just a guy who can just, his game just elevates all boats. He just does whatever he wants out there because of how he plays in between, like, the speed of everyone else, how much control he has. I was expecting a lot, and the Clips handled them.
Yeah. That they did. They have lots of wings that they could just throw at Luka to make his life a little more difficult than certain other teams. It's just the past few years when these two teams have met, it's just been a little bit difficult. Of course, Luka has his 40-point games. Like, that's Luka. He's been able to get to that. There was one stat that kind of stood out to me. I'm going to see if I could get to it quickly, but it was basically Luka's usage. This season, no team has really won a championship with a player who has had as high of a usage percentage as Luka has this year, except for like Michael Jordan twice in his career. But outside of that, just having such a dominant presence on the ball and not giving it up. I forget, it was like LeBron was on his podcast, Mind the Game with JJ Redick, talking about, like, yeah, sometimes we let guys get 40 and then we throw in the double team a little later just so that we know your teammates are cold now. It's not so much to just stop you from scoring, but it's to give someone else a shot who hasn't had rhythm all game. I think that kind of gets to Dallas at times. Like, Luka will be doing so much, as he should be, handling so much, that at times it just becomes so Luka dominant that it messes up with the flow of offense for the rest of the team. And I think the Clippers are one of the teams that like to pounce on that opportunity, as opposed to when Jokic, like we have the Lakers game and the Lakers Denver game in the background there, who is able to impact the offensive flow without being too dominant. Like Jamal Murray still gets his rightful touches. Aaron Gordon still touches the ball here and there. He's had a near triple double in their first game. So I think that's just a difference there with having someone who's so ball dominant. I know this is something that's coming with a guy like LeBron. Since LeBron came in the league, you found like if you have a forward who can play make, you want to have the ball in his hands as much as possible. But I think there's a balance there to have that Luka is still, I think, kind of searching for, and he'll get it eventually. He's just so talented that he'll be able to figure it out. But I think he's just maybe a couple steps away from that. It's still early. I still expect this series to go far, like the distance, like 7 games, even with Kawhi reportedly maybe back next game. We don't know how he's gonna exactly look. The knee's been kind of off and on for him, so that's always going to be in question. We know James Harden in tight situations can be a little shaky at times. So there's still lots of room for Dallas to make their mark. Kyrie's a well-established player in the playoffs. We know he can have a big performance here and there. So this is one to really keep an eye on. I think the first game won't be indicative of how the series goes.
No, probably not. But I think the Achilles heel of Dallas is still the fact that they haven't found the right big man for Luka yet. Like Derek Lively, he's very good, and I think he's like probably the center that's going to stick there for a long time. But I don't know if he's like the guy to play off Luka. I think he plays more of a good role on that team. But like I still think they need a talent at power forward then that's just not on that team and hasn't really ever been on that team since like Luka took the reins. Who that is exactly, that's really tough to say. If I knew, I'd probably work for the Dallas Mavericks. But so they gotta find the right third star, if you will, for the Mavericks, because like, credit to Kyrie Irving, like he's come back this year, he's focused on basketball and he's looked incredible. And he is a great number 2 to Luka, but they need that other guy. They need that one more guy, and they've got some players here and there, but they don't have like a guy.
Yeah.
And they need it up front because their front court is still a little bit lacking. And I think that would add some nice balance to that team, and just give somebody that like Luka can pass the ball to, and then his usage doesn't look so crazy. Right? Like, just give him one more guy and it all balances out.
Yeah, like they tried to make some of these additions with like PJ Washington midseason, Daniel Gafford. I like the Gafford one. The Gafford one I think has worked out nicely for them, front court guy. But again, this first game he only plays 14 minutes. And in a time split with Derek Lively. Lively still wins out with 19 minutes there. I think they like playing Kleber with those guys and have like a bigger lineup. But I think against this Clippers team, they're gonna have to go small because Clippers are small. They only really play Zubac as their main big. Plumlee comes in for a little bit, but it's mostly Zubac there that's going to be manning most of those front court minutes, and then you just go small. So I think that's what Dallas is gonna have to match. And I think, as you say, like at that 4th position, they have PJ Washington, who's kind of shaky. It's his first time in like this situation, playing like important high leverage games and such high leverage games. He's playing the Clippers for his first series. Like that's not an easy introduction to the NBA playoffs. But the other forward there that they started is Derrick Jones Jr., who is a great defender, but on offense is very limited. Can't really create much, and he relies on a guy like Luka and Kyrie to create for him. So I think you're spot on there with just that other forward position. They need to get a little more out of that position than what they're currently getting right now. And where that player comes from is extremely hard to say at this point.
Like they need their Aaron Gordon.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
And like, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's a guy that isn't necessarily quite a star right now, but when you put him with Luka, his skill set makes more sense. It just works better, and like that player takes off a little bit. So there's got to be some. They tried it with PJ Washington. They tried it, but like we talked during the trade deadline show, like it also felt like they went value shopping with PJ Washington, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, we can get him for like not very much, so we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, see how it
Um,
goes. Yeah.
yeah, and like, yes, Dallas doesn't have a lot of assets to be moving around to like make this trade or make this signing, but they're gonna have to figure something out, and they might have to go like pretty much anybody but Luka, Kyrie, and Derek Lively. We'll figure out a small four. We'll get anyone as long as we get
Yeah.
the right four. But I still like you. I still have high hopes for Dallas this off season. You know, this is definitely a wait and see series.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Um and quickly we'll touch on, I guess we have to touch on the Magic and the and the Cavs. That one has been going the way that I did not think it would go at all. Cavs are
Yeah.
handling that series. Not really much to speak about to that series except for Magic can't shoot threes to save their lives right now, and that's not helping. They're shooting 23%, I think, from three at the moment. It's pretty ugly stuff on offense from that team. And we have the Heat in Boston without Jimmy and Terry, which is just not fun. Not fun at all. That should be over pretty quickly. So I don't think we need to spend too much time on those two series. As I said, right now as we record this, Lakers and Denver are playing their second game. First game, it's kind of similar to this game. Lakers were up at half and they got smoked in the second half. Right now, Lakers are up. Looks like they're going to be up at half. There's about 2 minutes left and Lakers are up by 7. So it looks like they might pull off being ahead at halftime, and I expect Denver to pick it up in the second half and win this game. Who knows? We'll see. When you hear this, you'll know what happened with that game. But before we head out, I did want to talk about the Kings because they're up. They're out. I thought they might have snuck through the playing tournament and got a playoff spot, but they did not. They lost to the Pelicans and now are faced with some offseason questions. For one, Malik Monk is a free agent, and it sounds as if he might be on the move. Sounds like he's going to be looking for wherever can get him pay the most, which as he should. He had a great year, potential sixth man of the year, so he should go and get that money. But besides that, they have Fox signed on for 2 more years. Barnes signed on for 2 more years. What is the direction you think this team should be headed in? Like, is it time to kind of do away with this build of the team, with the Sabonis Fox build, or you think there's more room for them to make improvements to this core and find more ways to further solidify them as a playoff team? Because there are teams that were injured this year, for instance, like a Memphis, who are looking to come back and take their spots back. And with the emergence of teams like OKC and Minnesota and stuff like that, it could be very easy to see this the Kings fall out of that playoff picture. But what are your thoughts on how they should handle this offseason?
I still like the core over in Sacramento. Like I still think Sabonis and Fox are a good pairing. They've really worked ever since the Halliburton trade. Like they really have. Sabonis had a fantastic year. Fox had a really good year. And let's not forget, Keegan Murray was awesome in the first play-in game.
Yeah.
So like there's still a lot between those three that you want to like build on. It's just the rest of it. Like you go up and down that lineup and you're just like, there's a bunch of guys. Like, yeah, you got Malik Monk, but he's your sixth man and you're keeping him as your sixth man. Probably because it just creates too small of a backcourt with Fox and Malik. So what exactly they do will be interesting. It's hard to say whether or not they need more scoring or more defense. I don't know if it's just that like, hey, we need like a defensive stopper, or hey, we need a bucket. I feel like they just need like a lot of really good two-way players, like big wing two-way players. Bunch of
Yeah,
OG Ananobis.
yeah, just get all of the OGs, all the OG prototypes. Send them over to Sacramento. No, I think that's where it is right there. Like I think it's gonna be a tough offseason for them. I think there is still time for them to improve. I think as long as you have Fox on the books, you should be looking to improve and trying to get a playoff spot so that he stays happy and you're able to keep him long term, because you never know with the NBA these days. You're 2 years out of your contract. You start seeing other teams win, teams that you have friends with win, and you get a little curious of what that might look like over on the other side. So I think as long as he's there, as long as he stays committed, which it sounds like he is so far, you do everything in your power to try and win. We'll see how this Clipper series pans out, but there's been rumblings of maybe Paul George not getting the extension he wants. I'm sure Sacramento will give him all the money in the world to come to their team. So I think moves like that will be available. Zach LaVine, just get some more talent. Like your two guard there is looking like Kevin Herter, who's fine, but again, he's probably someone who's more of a role guy, someone who also could probably fight for a 6 man of the year with a Malik Monk in that sort of vein. He's not super uber talented as some of these other guys that are out there. So I think while you still have Fox committed, you go for it. But the second you hear murmurs of him, because he wasn't happy before, like it wouldn't be the first time. Like when they had Halliburton over there was a little push and pull of who is the point guard of the future there. So he's been a little frustrated before, so wouldn't be shocked if it happens again. But while he is committed, I think you have to go and get some talent upgrades on that team, because you don't want to do away with his years right now, I think.
No, I agree completely. Because I think he's a good player, and he missed out on the All-Star nod, but De'Aaron Fox, you got a lot there, and you got a lot with Sabonis. Like Sabonis is imperfect in that he's a really good offensive hub. He's really great at grabbing rebounds, but he's not the best defender. But I don't think you always have to have your center be the best defender. Like,
no. You could find ways to hide. You could find ways, yeah.
If you ask me, I'd still rather have a Sabonis than a Rudy Gobert. Mostly because at the end of the game, if you're going to take somebody out, chances are it would be a Rudy versus a Sabonis. He can get that shot. That you might need. Can he get the stop? That's kind of a question. But if you put him with the right players around him, and I see Murray as more of a small forward than a power forward. So maybe that's it. Maybe you got to find a really nice defensive Jonathan Isaac to stick next to.
Bridges.
Oh, now this is coming together. This isn't even that hard. All right. So if we can do this, brainstorming on a podcast, Sacramento should be able to do this in the off season, right? Because it's go ahead.
No, yeah, and they have stuff they can move, right? Like they have assets. They haven't spent too much.
No,
look at their picks 2025 protected. Yeah, after this year, they're gonna have. They have picks to trade, so they could definitely make some offers for some players if need be, if they want to go that way, which I think they will and should. And if they don't, then it'll be alarm signs over in Sacramento. I think he has the same. I think Donovan Mitchell and De'Aaron Fox have the same amount of time left on their contract. So looking around the same. Yeah. They're looking at Donovan Mitchell as the player option. That's the only difference. Donovan Mitchell has a player option, and what's his name does not. Fox does not.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's interesting stuff coming from the Kings and what they shall do in the offseason to either get better or blow it up. We shall see. Anything else before we head out?
Draft lottery odds have been set. That's really fun. I love the draft. So, also my team was really bad this year. I still believe you can find good players even in a quote unquote bad draft. So it's I've got the copium. You know, a lot of copium going on over here in Raptors land. Just being like, yeah, we're gonna find the guy. You know, our team's gonna get better, or you know, we're gonna be really bad again next year and get Cooper Flag. One of the two.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah, probably even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cooper Flag
I'm holding
looks
on.
like a guy.
Yeah. I'm holding on to hopes of getting that. Well, we're getting the Heat. The Heat are they have the 15th pick, so it's not bad for a playoff team. So hoping that they do
No.
something special with that. They're used to drafting from that position, so hopefully they can make some magic again from that spot. Yeah, I think that's it from me too. Like that will do it for this episode of the NBA Hangout. You can follow us at the NBA Hangout on Twitter X. You can follow me at BJAY93_. You can follow Dave here every week. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. Peace.